Hello, everyone, and welcome to our office hours here on the Academy. It's Wednesday, it's 4:30 p.m. It's our weekly show here on the Academy. And with that being said, let's get going. Hello there, and once again, welcome to our office hours. As you've probably noticed, Andrew is not joining us today. He was feeling a little bit under the weather. So, Andrew, get better soon. And in the meantime, you guys are stuck with me here for the next hour. As usual, we absolutely love questions, but I'll start with sharing some news from the previous week. Let's go ahead and share my screen. We'll simplify this a lot, I promise. If I can find the share to screen, that'll be great. That looks quite promising. This looks like a screen to me. Close that one and open as this. I think it was difficult for anyone to notice that Microsoft made some announcements in the recent days. And one was those things was an update for Windows 11. Copilot coming. That and many other features are being rolled out in the near future. So Microsoft had an event a few days ago where they announced this. And at the same time, they also started to announce how you can control this. And Aria Carly, who is Aria updated on Twitter, she sent out a tweet earlier, I believe today or yesterday, might have been today, where she announced that Copilot is going to be off by default. And in order to be able to control it, make sure you have the September update installed for this. And speaking of control, I did stumble across a nice little documentation page from Microsoft, which shows what different type of features that we'll be able to control, how to control them, and in what update whatever feature was introduced. And this is something you will see over time now, that changes is not just coming with the feature update, the next version, it also coming through monthly updates. Other than that, the WPNinja conference is going strong in Switzerland, or Baden in Switzerland. And if you don't mind staying up real late, for those of you here in the US, they do have a live stream they run here and there. And the next one, I believe, starts in about 9 hours, so closer to midnight here in the US. But highly recommend if you have a chance to or can't sleep, or you happen to be in Europe and want to go up early, that's okay as well. As always, these links that we share here, they will be published up on our Academy page and also up on our YouTube channel. Other interesting things that I stumbled across was a quite interesting video from Unpacking Endpoint Management, meaning Microsoft. But it was Danny and a few others who spent an hour talking about what happens if you get or have the opportunity of doing some sort of discovery in your environments. I learned a lot of things in this session that I didn't know about before, so that was pretty cool. This is obviously being broadcasted on Twitter here, but they do have it on their regular YouTube channel as well. So if you go to Windows IT Pro on YouTube, you head over to videos, and latest, and you should be able to find that one somewhere. I saw it earlier, but now my searching skills are failing me completely. See if I can find direct link to it. I swear it popped up on the screen earlier. What can possibly go wrong in a live demo? Unpacking and management, that was the name of it. So I found the earlier version, this one here. So that one was published. Is this a different IT Pro? Well, I cannot find it at the moment. It might be my searching skills failing me, but in theory, it should show up here on this channel. So I would think I will leave it at that, but you have the link for the live feed on Twitter there, so you can look it up. This one here. Maybe if I'm bold enough to search about investigations. Nope. Let's leave it like this. You'll find it. Anyway, it was a good session. I highly recommend catching up on it. All right. I did stumble across a good blog post from Torbjörn Gradheden, T-Bone, or Mr. T-Bone, as he calls himself, fellow Swede, who did an article on the new remote launcher, Remote Help, and explained that a little bit. He works for Colligo, a Swedish company known for their Intune expertise and other things. But that was a good post. And I also saw something that made me smile or warm and fuzzy feeling, put it that way. And it was from the WPNinja conference. It was David James, the former director of engineering with the ConfigMgr team. He was sitting in as an attendee in the keynote session by Steve Dispenza. And he is the corporate vice president with Microsoft. And he claimed that ConfigMgr is definitely not going away, and that more people than ever are coding on it, and that made me happy. So don't you worry, on premises is still available for you in the event you want to keep working on it, or if you're interested on co-managing with Intune for those devices. So that was some of the news that I stumbled across last week. Also, I have been busy playing around with the admin service in ConfigMgr. I got a request from a customer of ours to add collections to machines during deployment. And that can either be done through a client-side script or by remoting into the site server itself or any machine with the console and use one of the native PowerShell commandlets, or it turned out you can use the ConfigMgr.AdminService to add machines to collection. It took me a little while to figure out, but I got some good help from Adam Gross. He wrote or has written, it's been around for about a year now at least, but it's a ConfigMgr AdminService module. And let me show you what that one can be downloaded from. So I have it here because I created a package with it. Somewhere. I have to look up what that package is. Here is the package. Data source is up on my DFS share. This is the name of the module. Put the PowerShell gallery. This is where you have that module. And as you will see, there are tons of functions in this one that works with the admin service. And one of them was indeed to create a direct rule for it. So the trick, and I will share this in a blog post. I've been working on that last evening. I just didn't have time to post it. But long story short, in your sequences, you had to do a little bit of tricks to get this one cooperating. So first of all, I added in just a variable so I can see and troubleshoot command line parameters that I'm putting in, because by default they are suppressed. Then, in order to run a script in ConfigMgr as a different user, you also need to make sure that that user can read the script in question. And by default, when you have a normal user on a device, it's not able to read the scripts where they are in the task sequence cache. So what I had to do was to add another script that would simply temporarily add the user to the local admin group. And I actually took the time to make it work on localized machines as well by asking for the SID rather than the name. But this script will add the user account that I specify here, this one, to the local admin group. It will go ahead and run the script. And as a parameter there, I define the collection and where my SMS provider is, which in this case is also my site server. And this step, again, I'm running as that user account. Then when I'm done with that, I remove that service account from the local admin group with a similar PowerShell script, which, well, that's the opposite. So it will remove local group member. And this is a native PowerShell command in Windows, or commanded in Windows. For security reasons, I also did a security role for this. So I created in ConfigMgr an RBAC role, or security role, that was able to do that. So I configure it to, I just borrowed the read-only analyst, and then I went to collections and allow it to modify resource. And then on that account or administrative user, I added it in so it could only work on this collection here. And I also have to give it this one, because when you deploy machines fresh, they end up in that collection and you need to be able to see the device in order to add it. Anyhow, that will be a blog post about that, but every time I deploy a device, those machines end up nicely in my co-management clients collection here as direct members without me having to actually put them in, which is nice. And that is the collection I'm using in my tenant to enroll devices into, Intune. So properties here on my co-management. And this is the collection I'm using, and I'm in the pilot phase here. So, long story short, that's what I've been doing or spend my evening with. There was also a question coming in last week where we got some homework. It was, he wanted to know how to get the device ID easily from an Intune managed or an Azure AD joined device without having to ask Azure AD about that information. And after a little bit of research, me and Andrew, we did find a solution. So if I go to one of my devices here, you can see that if you open up your local certificates, this number here is actually the device ID in Azure AD. You can, of course, also run is reg cmd /status, and through PowerShell, you can parse that information to get the device ID there. So 2 options. I wrote a little script for it just for the fun of it. Here is one that parses the output from the reg status. So if I run this little snippet here, sure enough, it will show me that device ID, or I can also ask the certificate, and where I'm searching for an issue that is matching this name. And if I do that one, it will also show me the Azure device ID for that device. And just to verify, I could go into my Azure portal or Entra ID portal, find that device in question, devices, all devices, 001, that will be this one, and that device have indeed that device ID. So a few options there to work with that. Comment coming over from LinkedIn. First of all, hi Michael, hello back. There was another question coming in. Have you noticed in the new ADK that VP script doesn't work? Yep, that is a known feature. If you are interested in running VB scripts or running MDT, do not use the latest ADK. And that was the ADK that was updated now in September. And what is a little bit weird is that if you go to the ADK download page, you will obviously see that there is a link here to the ADK. And if I nuke my downloads history here, and download that one, you will see that the version of this binary is going to be 25398 here. This version does not work with either MDT or any type of VB scripting at the moment. Hoping that will be an update, but the challenge with this one, it seems to be built from the upcoming Windows 11 23 H2 media, because the binaries in it, if they have those versions. If you go down to earlier versions of the kit, you will find there are 2 here that you can download. Let's take a link, check at this link here, copy link. That's the link. And then I go to the other one, copy that link. Now I have 2 different versions. So I will go to that one first. and it downloaded ADK setup 1. This one is 22621. So this is the latest one where VB script is still functional. So that's one I recommend to use. The other one that I had is the first version of the ADK. If I download that one, number 2 here, it's going to be the 22,000 one. So make sure to get the 22621 version, and life is good. The downside here is obviously you need to patch it with a fix for secure boot. That was what the September update had in it. That's why they released it. But if it also breaks stuff, it's not so good. So long story, yes, we did notice, and it's a bit of a pain. Any other questions? I'll be happy to answer. Any questions at all? Let's see. A question coming in from LinkedIn. Matt asking, hi there. I need to identify devices with the old Office 2016 in our ConfigMgr environment, including those that might be offline, not proficient with queries. Could you recommend a resource? Thank you very much. Well, assuming that the machines come online at some point, you can definitely use regular hardware inventory for this, because an old Office setup will, if it's an MSI-based setup, the old way of doing things, Office-wise, it will show up in the add remove control, add remove programs in control panel. So there are plenty of examples on finding products that way. Ready-made reports you can run, or queries in Config Manager, or even ask the database directly to just show you products or machines that have a certain product. So that one is fairly straightforward. Good resources. Let's see what I can find. I know that both Garth Jones and Steve Thompson has been good in publishing guides around inventory. Let's see if I find something from Garth Jones real quick here. I know he was signed over to a recast about a year or two ago, and I think a lot of his posts went with them there. So I would probably look into this resource here from Recast or his different different posts. I think that might be a good start. Yeah, here's an example, Garth Jones. So yeah, maybe there. if any? There's a question coming in on YouTube. What should I do when content download is not working in one location for new apps only? App does not appear in System Center, Software Center. Is it related to bits and a policy problem? Most deployments not showing up in Software Center are indeed policy problems or something up with the ConfigMgr client. But please make sure there are two basic things to check for. If I go to ConfigMgr client here, make sure there are not multiple users signed in on the device. Forget that's a given of having notifications not show up here in Software Center. The other one is the time being incorrect on the device, wrong time zone. That can also prevent deployments from showing up. Otherwise, the policy files are your friend. If you go to CCM logs, you have the policy agent log file. We see policies coming down. You have the policy evaluator. I would definitely start there. It could also be that someone have created very creative restrictions or requirement rules for an application so that it won't work on certain machines or certain locations. It all depends on what those requirements have been configured to be. And those can be script as well. So sometimes they can be really, really, really creative. So start there, I think. Let's see. Another question coming in on LinkedIn. I have a legacy reporting server running on SQL 2014. I would like to upgrade to a fresh one running SQL 2022. Not sure if you can do an in place all the way from SQL 2014 to 2022. But you can definitely do it in steps because I have done upgrades on earlier versions to later versions in that range. Microsoft has a little bit of guidance on their docs page on what you need to think about. This one here, they have one for SQL at some point. Yeah, here's a little bit of guidance for this. Shorthand version is to make sure to stop all services before you do the upgrade. But other than that, this is what you need to do in a nutshell. Would recommend to back up any custom reports that you might have first if you're also upgrading the reporting services one, which is a separate install. But other than that, it's not too bad. Pretty straightforward. All right. Question from Matt on YouTube here. Last week, Andrew showed how you can deal with Office updates or Microsoft 365 apps updates through Intune, and also showed a way to changing to monthly channels. The question is, do we have an idea to find other channels? I do not, but hopefully Andrew will be back here next week, and I can definitely ask him then regarding that configuration. The solution Andrew showcased last week, I haven't played around with it myself, so I don't know, unfortunately. Any other questions? Found a link here also regarding upgrading the reporting services. Could be of interest for the gentleman that asked that question in the chat here. Apparently, Andrew is lurking in the chat there. Hi there, Andrew. Hope you're feeling a little bit better. The answer he provided was that monthly enterprise is the only channel available when using servicing profiles via the M365 app's admin center. So thank you. Appreciate that. Now go back to bed. Supposed to be sleeping. Another question coming in on YouTube. That was funny. Any idea about the config manager? Is it going to die? If so, when will you expect? You might miss this, but just earlier in the introduction to this session or office hours, there was a statement from today from Steve Dispenza, the corporate vice president of Microsoft. He claims that there are more developers than ever working on ConfigMgr, and no, whoops, it is not going away. So I think that answers that one. It doesn't mean that you have to stay on ConfigMgr just because it's not going away. There are still quite many things that you can do in Intune or work with them together in the code managed state. Last numbers I heard or saw was about 2/3 of all enterprise devices that are managed by Microsoft systems are managed by either ConfigMgr or ConfigMgr in the code managed state. And the other one are Intune only, obviously. But still, it's a good chunk of devices that are still leveraging both platforms. And I expect that to be the case for a while longer. Combining is usually for the better. It gives you access to all the features. But sometimes simple is good enough. And Intune on its own is pretty elegant. And if you don't need all the features that may come from an on-premises platform. So. Another question coming in from LinkedIn. How can you deal with people using modern? Let's see here. How can you deal with people using modern non-file specific antivirus? Okay, I get the question. We have a few customers running software, for example, from CrowdStrike that doesn't have that typical file scanning or things like that. And they, like any other antivirus software, they occasionally have issues with their engine, and they need to be fixed and updated. But for the most part, when we were running into issues, we have been able to fix them with help from that organization. And sometimes you have to do reconfigurations of their platform, but it's not the typical exclusions you would do because there is no file scanning. But they seem to grow in interest because they by nature are less intrusive. They are less likely to lock files and break things because they don't really work on that level, even though they do act as a filter. So my experience has been somewhat okay, even with the modern antivirus solutions. Another question coming in from YouTube here. Do you have a blog on how to set up the remote desktop manager from Devolution? No, I have not done that. Probably should, but I haven't. I think it's pretty straightforward to use. Uh, you install it and you create your folders, and then you start to add in uh, entries where you define, okay, this is going to be an RDP session or an SSH session or whatever that might be. And then you just fill in the details about that device. So it's like an advanced version of Microsoft's Remote Desktop Manager. Has a lot more information. If you have a good chunk of RDP files already because you're creating them before, you can import them here as well. There is an option to import existing RDP files. So I hope that answered that question. Yeah, the free version is totally fine. It's not intended for teams, like if you work in a team or share information, but for just a standalone lab environment like this, even the free version is good. Or I think it's good. Any other questions out there? There was a follow-up question regarding the ADK update since we did our session last week. No, it's still broken. Don't have any more updates on it. Haven't even been able to find a good way to restore VBScript to it, so I just gave up and reverted back to the 2.2621 version, meaning ADK for Windows 11 22 H2 without the September update. That one is still working okay, and you can still patch that one with the hotfix for CVE. Just that you have to apply the CU when you're done with it. That's all. Let's see. More questions coming in on YouTube. What is involved in upgrading the primary site server from 29 or server 2019 to server 22? So the deal is in-place upgrades are still supported even for that version of Windows, but I in general prefer to do a backup restore because it gives me a clean and pristine installation of Windows Server, even though initially there is some extra step that you need to do to get that going. That's still the method I like to use the most. If you are indeed set out to do in-place upgrades of the OS directly, Paul Winstanley, see if I can find his blog, fellow MEP from the UK. Here's one for the database. Yeah, this was a fairly detailed blog post, and I'm assuming similar steps can be applied for going to 2022 as well. So maybe review that one, but I prefer to do the backup restore instead. Let's see. Was a question coming in from Robert, YouTube as well, having an error using the add Windows package with a hex code to return when running Dart 10. The cap files are on my computer. I have not seen that error, and I've added in Dart quite a few times to WinPE. You don't have to use the add package though. In fact, I have not used that one, even though ConfigMgr is probably using it behind the scenes. But I did write a blog post on how to do it manually. And by manually, I mean PowerShell. So this one here is a PowerShell script that will basically here. It will take the cab file. So you have to tell it where you installed Dart, and it just mounts the boot image and then expands the cab file into that mounted folder and copies some files. So that will do it for sure. So if you are having trouble with the add Windows package, this will definitely do the trick. Question coming on YouTube. Johan, have you had a chance to test ConfigMgr 2309? I have not yet, but I have worked with a customer who is part of the TAP program. So they were one of the early adopters of 2309. They've been running it in production now for about a month. The only trouble so far I've stumbled across was a SQL injection hardening. They basically changed one of the functions, but I think that has been fixed now. Long story short, if you had a site that contained the word SP, it would not be listed in your boundaries. But hopefully that has been addressed, but I will let you know once I have a chance to test 2309. Matt on LinkedIn is asking any good resources or people you would recommend for managing Mac OS devices with Intune. I do not know. If anyone have any tips, feel free to share. But it's put it this way. We have one Mac in our house. I am not managing that device. It's not my forte. Any other questions? Comment regarding installation of a new fallback status point role in ConfigMgr, or FSP as it's called. The MSI fails when trying to add that role. Rebuilt the server and it worked fine. Yeah, it's hard to tell afterwards why that one failed, but so far in my experience, that particular role has been one of the nicer roles. The ones that usually gives you a headache is either the management point or the notification, the BGP role, or big green button that is called. But I would have to have access to that system to have an idea of what was going on. It's nothing I recognize. Great question, though. Another question coming in on YouTube. I know that you showed us once before how to improve performance of a lab, SQL database tweaks. If I have it, do I have it on my blog? I do not. Steve Thompson has done some good guidance around SQL performance. He even wrote a script that helps you do an audit of your current setup, and it will kind of tell you how bad it is. See if his blog is still up and running. Yeah, I think this audit script is still very much accurate. Spits out an Excel spreadsheet or CSV file in the end with some recommendations. But I would recommend to look through his blog here for performance tips. Even though they're older, some of them, it's still very much valid. So yeah, I will start here. Any other questions? I mean, follow up there. You can tweak SQL all day long, but if your disk subsystem is throttled by the storage team, you can at least verify how quick it is. This is a PowerShell script that will reduce disk speed to figure out how many IOPS you have on the system, because the volumes where you're hosting your database, these three here, those are the ones that need to have shiny storage, meaning flash, SSD. The C drive, or where you have the inbox or the content library itself, sure, it's nice if it's quick, but from an IOPS point of view, it doesn't require as much as the database volumes. So I would try that, or start with that. Yeah, there was a comment about hearing our dog snoring. Yeah, I have two dogs actually snoring next to me. Leon, he's the louder one, and I have a shotgun microphone right here, so it picks up that perfectly. He's not very interested in SQL anyway, so it's all right. He had a hard day. He had to sleep, he had to eat, and he had to sleep again, and it's tough being a dog. Well, we have shared custody of the dog. Thank you for asking. That was a comment that came in there through LinkedIn. We have 3 of them, and they seem to switch whoever they stay with for the day. So sometimes I have all 3 out down here, sometimes I have none. And now I have 2. Any other questions? All right, then I will make sure to get these linked up there. And other than that, thank you so much for joining today. And Andrew, get better soon so you can join us next Wednesday. And other than that, have a great rest of your week, everyone. Bye for now. And I'll see if I can get this outro going. Ta-dum.